Relationship advice. My soon-to-be ex-wife was cheating on me with a younger man, and my daughter helped cover it up. I, 50 male, found out that my wife, 49 female, was having an affair with a man in his 30s. I was crushed and started the divorce process. We have 4 children, 25 female, 23 male, 21 male, and 20 female, together, and since all the children are legal adults, I intend to wash my hands of this woman completely, and only see or talk to her at events that involve our children. My wife doesn't want a divorce and is begging for us to go to therapy, but I have refused. She has broken my trust in one of the worst ways, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life with doubt. I know that this would be hard on our children, but I didn't expect my oldest child Chrissy, 25 female, to be so against the divorce, and insist that I work things out with her mother for the good of the family. They all know why I'm divorcing their mother. I told my daughter that my decision is firm, and I've tried to talk to my daughter about my perspective and that I would never expect her to choose between us, but she didn't want to hear it. Chrissy was very upset and I tried to recommend therapy to help her process and cope, but she insisted that there wouldn't be a need for her to go to counseling if I didn't divorce her mother. I felt like Chrissy was trying to pressure me into staying, which I didn't think was fair, and decided to go low contact with her until the divorce was finalized. Whenever I did talk to my daughter, she was always sobbing and would beg/demand that I speak to her mom. I've stopped any direct communication without the involvement of my lawyer, and reminded her of that. It got so bad that I decided to just go no contact for about a month. I spoke to Chrissy 2 days before her sister's birthday through a text, and asked her not to bring up the divorce since that day. I did the same with my wife and I got no response from either of them. In the beginning, everything was a little awkward but I thought it was going okay, until my wife gave a passive-aggressive speech about family being together for important events. One of my sons called her out and Chrissy defended her. My youngest daughter, sick of her Chrissy's ways, revealed that the only reason she was on my wife's side was because she knew about the affair before I did, and even helped my wife cover it up. I was devastated. Apparently, after I filed, my wife accidentally sent a text to the wrong child, confirming that Chrissy had indeed known about the affair for months, and would cover for her. The rest of my children talked about it and decided to stay out of it, which I don't hold against them, but my youngest daughter was so sick of Chrissy and my wife making her birthday about them, that she blurted it out in the heat of the moment. Since then, I have assured the rest of my children that I will always be their dad and love them, but I have been no contact with Chrissy since the birthday event. Right now, I am shutting down all of her attempts to talk to me because I am just too upset. Some days I feel like what Chrissy did was worse than what my wife did, and I'm not sure I want a relationship with her in the foreseeable future. What should I do? Now for the top advice. For now, I definitely think no contact is a wise choice. At the very least, you need time to heal and process your feelings, and Chrissy has already proven that she will continue pushing her feelings and opinions onto you despite being told repeatedly to stop. Personally, I would send Chrissy a letter, snail mail, to minimize chances of her responding, explaining that she is your child, as such you will always love her, but she has made some very hurtful, selfish choices that you aren't sure you'll ever get past, but you are sure that you need time and space away from her to work through your feelings, and you need her to respect that and not attempt to contact you or pester her siblings to try to change your mind. Let her know that, if and when the time comes that you feel comfortable reaching out to her, you will, and it will then be her choice whether or not to respond. Of course, sending a letter like that is entirely your choice. I just know that I would want to send one to one of my kids in a similar situation. I would also talk to the other kids, explain that you've gone no contact with Chrissy at least for now, and why, and ask them to please not let her convince them to get in the middle of things. I think counseling would be a good idea for you. It sounds like you are dealing with a lot of pain, betrayal, and anger, and would benefit from someone trained in helping to untangle and process those emotions. Yeah, I think when I've calmed down a bit more, a letter would be best. Honestly, you have every right to be upset and feel betrayed. Your daughter covering up cheating and trying to manipulate you to stay with your ex shows she has some questionable morals, and it makes me wonder what her mother has told her. You are within your rights to never want to talk to Chrissy again, but I wouldn't make that decision now. You're obviously still in the heat of the moment. Go no contact until you've had time to sort things out, and if you decide to continue no contact for yourself, that's fine. If Chrissy wants to talk about it later, you can reevaluate again the relationship you want to have. Chrissy is an adult, and should have known there would be consequences to her actions. If she doesn't like those consequences, she should have thought through her decisions. I'm sorry you're going through this, OP, I hope the future holds a lot of healing for you. Good luck with everything. I'd give your daughter the benefit of the doubt, if she found out and opted not to tell you. That's a hard thing for any child to process, and I would understand if she felt it wasn't her place to tell you. But the fact that she found out, and then chose, as a 25-year-old adult, to aid her mother with the affair, is almost as big a betrayal as the one your wife committed. I don't know if it would be possible to come back from that. I agree that no contact with either of them for the foreseeable future is the best course of action, and I am sorry that you are going through this. Depends on how it went down. At 25 years old she is certainly an adult. But there is just something about your parents. In some cases, it doesn't matter how old you are, whenever they talk to you, they have this way of making you feel like a child. And in a situation like this, I don't know if it'd be that hard for a mother to convince her child to cover. A few tears, some guilt, promises that it will never happen again, and your father won't be hurt if you just keep your mouth shut. I agree that OP should take the time and go no contact, but I do think at some point, hopefully with a therapist's help, he should sit down with her and find out exactly what happened. Now for the next story. My wife's apologist attitude toward her father's creepy behavior is ruining our marriage. 26 male married to 25 female, for 1 year and a few months. I've reached my limit with this situation, and I'm posting here hoping for some fresh perspective and ideas on how to fix this dumpster fire. My father-in-law, 60-something male, has this weird, pervy infatuation with my uncle's, 38 male, fiancée. I'll call her Bryn, 34 female. It started at my wedding, where he got wasted and spent the whole night following her around, hitting on her. Then it was constant comments about how hot she is, asking if my uncle talks about their bedroom life, WTF? And whether or not I think she would cheat on him, because girls that look like that can't be trusted. He would touch her inappropriately, and laugh saying it was an accident. Make actual jokes, etc. Then when COVID happened, he started creeping her Facebook, liking and commenting on her modeling pictures from 10 years ago, and sending her casual messages until she blocked him. There's more, just giving some examples. Bryn tried to handle it discreetly at first, but she's long over it. My uncle and I have tried as well. But since we haven't gotten together for a lot of the year due to COVID, it kind of solved itself as far as the in-person stuff. Recently, we were talking about doing Christmas in January or February, and Bryn got the whole family on Zoom, including my wife and mother-in-law, to talk about father-in-law being there for Christmas. Paraphrasing here, she's dealt with this her whole life, but has had enough. What father-in-law has been doing is actual harassment, and she's past the point of just putting up with it or trying to avoid it. She won't accept it anymore, and since we are her family, she expected our support and expected us to not include father-in-law in any more get-togethers. My uncle was less eloquent about it, saying, "If father-in-law shows up, I'm going to throw him out. With or without your blessing, so get your crap together." Me and the rest of our family apologized to Bryn, and said we of course support her, and father-in-law wouldn't be welcome around any of us, whether she was there or not. My wife and mother-in-law, who already knew about some of this situation, were just kind of uncomfortable and silent. The Zoom call ended and my wife unleashed this tirade of BS, about how selfish and conceited Bryn must be, to think her dad is harassing her, WTF? My mother-in-law called, and said basically the same thing, with the inclusion of Bryn is a beautiful girl, of course men flirt with her, she should be flattered, which is just more apologist garbage. Mother-in-law and my wife do admit that father-in-law has been over the top, but they don't understand why Bryn is making a big deal out of it, and she should just avoid him. I asked mother-in-law why it didn't bother her since this is her husband that's doing this, and she just shrugged it off, saying he's always been flirty and it's harmless. My wife agrees. And I feel like I'm in the freaking Twilight Zone. We do live in a small southern town, so I get that there are some stupid, archaic schools of thought still floating around, but this is nuts. I'm having trouble even liking my wife due to her stance on this. I talked to my mom about it, and she said I should give it some time. It's probably a lot harder for her to process since it's her dad. But I'm having a really hard time being patient or understanding about it. How do I get past this, or talk to my wife about it in a way that can get her where I need her to be? I don't want to be around this creepy dude. How is that going to work if she doesn't care? I really don't feel like I'm overreacting here. And yes, before anyone asks, Bryn, my uncle, myself and other family members have absolutely talked to, yelled at, father-in-law about this on multiple occasions. His response is basically, "What? I'm a man. She's sexy as hell, That's not my fault. Now for the top advice. Father-in-law is a pig. Daughters often have a hard time seeing their fathers as anything but a king, if they have a good healthy relationship. Unfortunately, it looks like your family and her family will need to be separated. Tell her that if she can't see how wrong this is, the families can't be together and you won't go to anything her disgusting pig of a father will be going to. First of all, thank you for supporting Bryn and the rest of the family. Your wife and her mother's support of this toxic sexually aggressive behavior is shameful and disgusting. Even more so, is their expectation that everyone else should just accept it. Do you think there's any possibility that she, your wife, was a victim of his abuse? Trying to understand why she has this attitude might be a first step. Having separate family get-togethers is not that unusual, and seems to be appropriate. This could be a hill to die on. I would not want to raise daughters or sons with someone that thinks this behavior is normal. I don't think there was any abuse, no. She calls herself a daddy's girl, and they have a good relationship. I think she's just having trouble seeing that he sucks, and her mom being dismissive about it makes it easier. There's a big stereotype of violators and actual offenders being inhuman monsters, but they're not. They're fathers, brothers, husbands, friends. And that's very difficult to accept, if that person is someone you love. I think your mom is right, it's a tough pill to swallow for your wife. He sounds like a deeply entitled, sexist, self-centered a-hole. It's not the first time he has done that. He was most likely a sexist jerk at home to your wife and her mother. This is probably bringing up some uncomfortable truths to light for her, and blaming the victim is so much easier than accepting that her dad, that she's believed all her life she's supposed to love him, is a sleazy pig. It takes time to undo decades of sexist belittling, no matter how little it was. Same goes for her mother, except that she was brainwashed for longer. There's no way he didn't attempt to cheat on her before and make it her fault, for example. The Zoom call was the right thing to do, but unfortunately your wife and her mother may feel humiliated too. It's worth browsing the ton of feminist writings out there. Reading someone put words on what she's going through may help your wife a lot. She's far from being the only one with a sexist father, and countless women have been in her shoes before. You can't help her mom, but if your wife changes her mind, it might eventually trickle to her mother. This is good advice, thank you. Now for the last story. My husband nursed on me while I slept. My husband, 31 male, and I, 26 female, have been together for 6 years, and have a 1.5-year-old that I am still breastfeeding. Ever since I had my child, my husband doesn't touch my mammaries at all. I kind of like it that way, because I mainly see them as something for my child, instead of anything actual now, and it's hard for me to separate that fact when we are having intimacy. Last night though, I woke up to my husband suckling on my mammaries. Like he was breastfeeding. I've been sleeping pretty hard lately, because my child finally sleeps through the night, so I'm not constantly on edge waiting to hear them wake up as I used to. Anyway, last night I woke up abruptly with my shirt completely up and my husband nursing on me. I gasped and he kind of shot up and laid back down in bed. I then said, "You scared me," and went back to sleep. He never said anything and I haven't brought it up again. I'm so confused about how I feel and how to proceed with this. On one hand, I'm uncomfortable and kind of creeped out by what happened, and specifically that it happened when I was asleep. On the other, I don't want to embarrass or shame my husband. I don't know what to do, and desperately want to talk about this to someone, but don't want to tell my friends or family about it. Now for the top advice. So that's kind of a fetish of mine, and my wife is actually into it and it's great, so maybe I can give feedback that's free from revulsion of the act itself. Not okay. He didn't ask. That's never been part of your bedroom life before, and he doesn't get to introduce it while you're sleeping. You don't want to shame your husband, but frankly, sometimes shame is a healthy feeling and appropriate response to certain actions. I'm not going to say leave him over this, I don't think it's that extreme, but it needs to be made very clear that he violated a boundary, and it will not be tolerated moving forward. Bingo. 100% agree. OP, I would address the consent issue, as that is not okay that he did it without your knowledge. That particular fetish is pretty common, and there are entire subreddits devoted to adult nursing relationship, currently lactating or not. If the act truly is repulsive to you, then please, let it be known. You need to shame your husband. Sorry, but doing that behind your back while you were asleep without your consent, crossed the line. You deserve to let him know how creepy you found this behavior. and he needs to know to never cross this line again. If it makes you uncomfortable, it's valid, point blank period. If he had a breastfeeding fetish, he should have talked to you about it and asked your permission and given you a chance to accept or decline instead of just doing what he wanted in a weird and RP way. Agreed. You need to shame your husband. You need to embarrass your husband. He decided to take one of your body parts, without your consent, and do something actual to it. And wouldn't have told you about it. It is super creepy, and he should be shamed for doing that. Don't feel bad about confronting him. Stand your ground and be firm, and let him know he crossed a line, he crossed boundaries, and he straight up violated you. What the F did I just read? While you were asleep? Since you didn't mention, yeah, even though I gave him permission to suckle me whether I'm awake or not, I have to assume he did not have such permission. Brr. Creeped out chills just ran down my spine. Twice. No. I'm not exaggerating. I'd ask him, you do know sleep does not equal consent. Right? I was about to write that too. What the F did I just read? And that's it for this video guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day everyone.